All right, welcome to another episode of Falling Forward. This is my buddy, Greg Adams.
What's up?
Greg with 1G.
1G, the OG.
You know, that started like, we got this group message and for some reason my phone like auto-corrected to Greg with 2Gs and you called me out on it.
Yeah, and then I called you L Lance.
It's like llama.
Lance with 2 L's.
Well, I'm gonna let y'all know who Greg Adams is here in a few, but we're gonna get started right here with the cigar review. Now, the one that I've got this time is a Tabak-Negra from the Drew Estate. This is a Negra. And it's got, you know, as soon as you open this thing up, you have like a bunch of tobacco right here at the end. You're like wondering what it is. I think they just packed that in there to fill up the extra space in the tube. But this is kind of a dark wrap. Let's see if I can focus in on this thing. That's probably the worst part of. There we go. All right, you can see the label, Drew Estate. This says Negra on the end. What are you smoking?
Nice.
What do you got?
Well, mine's not as fancy. It's just a push pop type, you know. But
damn, push pops.
It's picked it up at the old gas station on the way down here. It's called a 4 Kicks. Let's get that focused in.
So
there.
is it 4 kicks, like the number 4, or 4 kicks, like just for kicks?
You know what? I'm calling it 4 Kicks, like the 4 Horsemen kick. You know what I'm saying?
All right. I did learn something about cutting a cigar from the last show. You only want to take off about the sliver of a dime, the width of a dime. So that's all I did that time. See that?
It's fancy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut my finger off. Y'all want to
I
see
had no
that?
idea what I was doing when I first started this thing, and I still don't. But I am learning little tidbits here and there. Also, the Drew Estate is nowhere near Kentucky. But the reason I got confused is they do a barn smoking event in Kentucky. And I'm glad they did that. And I want to go to the next one. Hopefully they'll have me over. And,
They'll book you.
Maybe they will.
You know what I mean?
I'd like to have them in the cab of the truck.
I would. I'd book you at my private party.
All right, this immediately I'm smelling kind of a sweetness and a kind of a chocolate note to this. It's got a lot of extra tobacco at the end, so it makes it real easy for lighting.
All I smell is tobacco leaf and cigar.
Wow, this is immediately like a sweetness to the.
Yeah.
Yep. It's almost like a sugar-coated cigar. So if this is the first time you've seen this show, what we're doing is a cigar review. I'm gonna have different people in the cab of this truck, interview them a little bit, kind of laid back. Greg Adams is a good friend of mine. I can call him one of my best friends of all time, and it's one of the reasons I had him on here. And just a solid dude. We're gonna find out more about Greg Adams, but the way that he and I met was through music, of course. And your family still has a place called the Twisted Cork.
Yep.
And I still remember the first time I went out there. I was writing some music with a guy named Micah Howard out of Virginia. He was living in Nashville at the time. And Micah Howard was like, dude, I'm gonna go up to Twisted Cork. He's like, there's a lot of great things I've heard about it. He's like, this is kind of the place to be for an open mic. And I had never done an open mic to that point. And so I met Micah there. I did my first open mic at the Twisted Cork.
Yeah. We've been, it's often been claimed as the Bluebird Cafe of Kentucky.
I see that 100%. I never thought about it like that.
And one person that sticks out to my mind that has called it that, and I've heard her call it that, is Abby Hamilton, and she's amazing. So check her out.
Abby Hamilton, absolutely.
Her music is amazing. But yeah, she's often used it, and other people have used it as their core. How do I practice, and where do I practice, and what do I do? And this place is good for that. We're so open to all ages, all starting points, Well, you've been doing it for 2 days or 20 years. Come try it out. And the atmosphere is great. The food's great.
And it's changed locations. You had originally it was on it was in the back of a liquor store. They had a drive-through liquor store with a tiny little stage in the corner, and so you'd end up like,
looks like Tim Parks.
yeah. That's my buddy just pulled up I met him in Wales. We were me and Jack Browning were doing some shows out there, and Glenn, I still don't know his last name, but I was like, dude, if you're coming to the States, like, you always got a place to stay at my house. He's like, I'm coming. He's like, I just got to Nashville. I'm driving up today. So here he is. He's just now pulling up. But
he's pulling up. Looked over and I was like, is that Tim Parks?
We'll get him on the show. But got a very thick accent and a very like solid beard game. Yeah, he's a great photographer. Great dude. We'll meet him. So, how's the cigar feeling to you? Like,
it's feeling pretty good. It's smooth, not so hot. I've had some very hot cigars, you know what I mean, where it like kind of burns the throat.
Yes.
It's not bad.
My initial feeling from this cigar is I'm definitely going to buy a whole box of these. This is a very sweet cigar. Not harsh at all. This is one that I would consider kind of like end of the night smoke. You know, you have you've eaten dinner, you're to your dessert wine, and then like this is the end of the night right here. This is that kind of cigar.
That kind of stuff, huh?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Hell yeah.
Tabak-Negra, the Negra, and I'm starting to favor like the darker wraps on the cigar, like the Maduro. I don't know if this Maduro. I don't know I can't remember exactly what this is. That's one thing I need to work on too, is like researching my cigars. But
I hear you.
So we are going to attempt the first in Falling Forward history, and we're going to be making a repair on the truck, and we'll probably cut and go straight to the repair. This is going to be on the power steering pump, the return line going to it. This one is cut. I got a new one. We're going to replace it. Actually, I got it right here. So Greg and I are going to attempt to replace this line.
We've got this.
It's 2 connections. We're going to fill it up, see if it works. I don't know if it works or not.
If it don't work, we're going to...
And then we're going to philosophize a little bit. We're going to talk, we're going to get deep about what power steering means to a vehicle and what it means to us. Like what are some things that we need in our lives to help us through the hard turns, the heavy loads. And if you've ever driven a vehicle without power steering, you realize like you take so many things for granted, how easy it is when everything in a vehicle is working perfectly, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, and you realize how difficult it can be.
All my years of being a mechanic, I can tell you, yeah, it's pretty tough driving one without power steering.
I had to drive this all the way from Indiana, and there were some curvy ass roads, and like I was nervous as hell. Come to find out, I should not have driven it at all without the power steering, and the brakes weren't working right.
Yeah, there was a line leaking.
And then all of a sudden, the first episode I had of this, or the second, talked about how I brought this thing back with no incident, like it was no problems at all. There was a major problem. I pulled up to the exit. This is all the way from Indiana, 3.5 hour drive or whatever it was, that I pulled into the exit here in Berea, and I get down to the stop sign, and all of a sudden the thing stalls out on me. And I'm like, oh shit, like, well, maybe it's something with the carburetor or whatever. I tried to restart it, dead as a doornail, wouldn't even turn over. So my buddy that was following me, I called him up and I was like, dude, this thing is dead. He's like, I'm gonna put it neutral and let's roll this thing out of the way. So we roll it over the side of the road. Immediately, I'm talking within a minute, some dude pulls over behind us and is like, hey man, truck stall out? I was like, yeah. He's like, is that thing a stick shift? Like, of course. He's like, well, let's roll start it. So he gets in behind my car with his truck, or he gets in behind this truck with his car. I'm like, dude, you're gonna scratch your bumper and everything. He's like, I don't care. So he starts pushing me down the road, and I thought he was gonna get me maybe like 15 miles an hour, and then we like dump the clutch and get the thing started. I'm up to like 40 miles an hour. I forgot the thing was in first, and I popped the clutch. And it's like, this is a very low geared transmission. So
Probably should have did that in second.
I should have started in second.
Because
But
you probably about broke your teeth on the
I
steering
did.
wheel.
I immediately shifted to second, started the thing up, but I knew it was going to stall. So I do a Dukes of Hazzard 180-degree turn in the middle of the road, and I head back. And I see that guy. He follows me, and he's like, he passes me, he's like, hey, man. You know, and whatever. I forget whatever he said, but anyway, I made it back to the house, and I parked it in front of the house. And I was like, but I wanted to update you on that because I said last time that there was no incident on bringing it back from Indiana. That was an incident. And I'm lucky that there was no police around.
Right. Because you'd probably been like, I mean, you know, you got to get this thing going. They probably would have let you go. You know what I mean, to be honest.
They probably would have.
They'd probably been like, all right, he's just trying to get this old hunker back to the house.
Greg, I want you to tell everybody about yourself, man. Like, okay, your family has a music background,
Mm-hmm.
Music venue experience, like they have their own place. Everybody seems to know you. Everybody that comes here does music. I don't care if they're from the area or not. They know Greg Adams. And so, how did all that start?
Well, in 1985, the year I was born, my dad was in a band called the Greg Austin Band, and they were out on tour and stuff like that, and playing all over. So when I came into this world, I came into the music world, and it's just been something that I've always been a part of. And my father being a musician, his whole, from the teenager on, it just kind of carried over. I'm not a musician. I tried to play drums and tried to play bass, and probably still could have if I put more effort into it. But as far as me being a musician, I'm not. Not even close. But I started learning the business aspect of it, behind the scenes, growing up, watching my dad have band after band after band, and watching him play Austin City so often, and watching him play all these county fairs around the state and stuff like that, and just doing all that. That's how I got started into just wanting to be in it forever. And then it kind of took a hiatus when you get old enough to try to figure out what you're going to do for a career. And well, I had no clue, and thought I was going to be a mechanic. That didn't work. Thought I was going to be a farm fence builder for the rest of my life. That was too hard of work to do for the rest of my life, so decided to do the hardest thing in the world, is become a Marine, and was in the Marine Corps for 8 years. And
Thank you, man.
Oh yeah,
Thank you for your service.
I'd do it all over again. It was such a fun time in my life. It took me all over the world, and I met so many good people from it. Lost good people, but met more than I lost, way more than I lost. So I've got connections all over the country with people that would probably say, yeah, my couch is your couch, man. You know what I mean? And that's a blessing in disguise, because you didn't think about things like that when you were meeting people. You never thought of where it would take you in the future. Oh yeah, now I've known you for 20 years. Holy shit, where did the time go?
Yeah.
You know?
As this train goes by, hopefully it's not too loud, but do you find that the music scene's kind of like that in a way, where you build up this camaraderie, this brotherhood, and like there's a trust that settles in immediately, because you know
Yeah.
what kind of music they like, or like who they hang out with, or like what they're. I don't want to sound like maybe sometimes we're too naive, but we do have an open heart when it comes to, like, if you're a part of this group, you're a friend of mine, you know?
Yeah. Me personally, like, as far as like groups and cliques and things like that go, I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna say, if you're not part of this or this or this, you're not cool. I want you to be a part of whatever you want to be a part of, and if I like it, I'm gonna be a part of it too. That's just how I am. And like, watching that, and the people that are actually really truly into, like, for instance, if they're 100% Lance Rogers, you know, and want to be your fan, you'll see that. You'll see everything they do. You'll see them show up at shows. You'll see them have conversations with you that are just conversations.
Yeah.
And not something trying to brown nose you.
Right.
Or stuff like that, you know. And the brown nose fans, man, hell yeah. We love those too.
We need
right?
those too, man.
We got to have them, but it's like what the group, the family that I built in the Marine Corps is a lot like the group and the family that I built in the music scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people that I would trust with my life. And that's just basically it. And the people that I don't, or you know, the people that don't show me that side of them, I just kind of just wean them out, or don't make it a point to go and see them. But if I see them, I'm still gonna be, hell yeah, you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna.
Yeah, there's levels of friendship in the music scene, and I think sometimes a buddy of mine was telling me about like fans that you'll get. He said you'll have, here's how he related it. He's like, you'll have the goats and you'll have the dogs.
Roger B. Combsies.
You'll have the goats and you'll have the dogs. The dogs are the people that herd and shepherd the goats to where they are going to consume the product.
Mm-hmm.
And so the goats will eat anything in their path. They're just like hungry for it all the time. Like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? They're going to eat it all up. And you need those people that are core, solid friends. Are like, hey, here's who I'm listening to. Why don't you all listen to these guys or this girl?
I do that all the time.
Yes, and it's like,
I will text, you know, people that I know in the industry that always have their shows and always do their shows and host their shows and festivals and stuff like that. If I run into somebody that I'm like, shoo-wee,
yep.
You know, I will text anybody.
I try to do that too, man. And there is something to that where you can hear 100 different people and maybe only 10 of them will do something inside of your body that's like, oh man, this is bringing out an emotion. Or I'm like,
oh yeah,
they really got it, and they don't care what their age is or what their background is. Like, if they've got it, they've got it, and you know it when you hear it. And
you very do.
And I
very
think, Greg, you're one of those dudes that you know it. So I wanted to ask you, like, are there some up and coming bands or like people that you see in the scene or outside of the area even that like maybe the watchers out there, listeners, are going to want to hear?
Man, that's a huge list.
There's a lot, man.
And I mean, I'll name some, but I would want to name them all if I could.
You're gonna miss a bunch.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of it. But
I hosted an open mic night at the Burl here in Lexington, or up in Lexington. We're in Berea. Up in Lexington with a festival called Sleeping in the Woods, and me and John Smithwick and Nick Jamerson curate that stuff, and we're in charge of it and kind of run with it and have fun with it. And it was a blast, our first one, and it's so unreal how much talent is in this state, or just comes to the state to play in this state, because they were kids that showed up from West Virginia to play in Lexington to get to play 2 songs.
yeah,
And they played their best 2 songs, trust me, because everybody that played at that open mic night absolutely slayed it. Some of the ones that really just made me feel something was obviously Nick and Rachel Bayman getting up and singing their songs they wrote together. Killer.
Mm-hmm.
Golly. And,
I think Nick Jamerson's one of the best songwriters out there, man, doing the thing.
He's gonna go down. He's gonna go down as Kentucky, just
absolutely
the GOAT of writing in Kentucky as far as writing music goes. He has so much music out. He doesn't ever hesitate to record something, which is why I love him. I'm like, I would tell that to every musician out there is you write it, record it, send it.
And he's still he's still kind of like such a young guy. He's got so much ahead of him that like I know he's accomplished some great things. I still don't think that he's hit his like
he's not even at his peak.
No, not at all.
No. He's I don't know if Nick will ever be at his peak, because it seems like every year he writes something else that you're like, holy.
There's
wow.
people like that, man. Like throughout music
like,
history, they don't ever hit a peak. They just like they hit a peak, And then they hit the next peak, and then they hit the next one. It's just, it's a mountain range.
Yeah, it's just, good thing he's from the mountains. You know,
mountains.
Good thing he's from out there.
There's something to that, man. You're from the mountains, you're going to hit several different peaks.
He's a climber.
So,
and I love that.
Who else was somebody like in that series that you
Bo Warren was good. He stuck out to me. Jason Bonham blew us all away with this Coal Miners Chant song. Jesus. Yeah, Jason, not the Jason Bonham. John Bonham's son. John Bonham's son is named Jason Bonham, not that Jason Bonham. Jason Bonham resides in Nicholsville, Kentucky, and I think it was Bo Warren that put him on there and told him he was going to do it. So he did it, and Jason Bonham got up there and just absolutely just blew us away. And I couldn't wait to get him over to the Twisted Cork. So I texted my stepmom Whitney and was like, hey, let's try to get him in. And she was like, oh, it'll be perfect, let's do this date, and got him on. They had a blast. Jason and his wife had a blast. They're great together, by the way. They do sing together. But Cody Christian stuck out to me. He's a good one to watch and watch out for. John Thomas Moore, I think I'm saying his name right. Young kid, hungry. That's another one you should watch. Dale Blankenship is just... I've been a fan of that kid since I first heard him sing. And he just writes really good damn songs. And he's got a couple out that he just released, but he's got a couple that he sang at that open mic night that just were amazing. And I was so happy to see him make it down for that. That was cool. That was really cool.
So we got like the thing in the music scene right now is we see some of those guys that have inspired so many people along the way. You know, Tyler Childers, Chris Stapleton, Zach Bryan. I think Zach was probably directly related, you know, like kind of influenced by Tyler in a way. And like we see this, like all these young people getting into the music scene. If they're watching right now, what are some like words of advice you would give them, knowing what you know now, like seeing like people from the beginning through this whole process? Like what's some like words, tips that you would give them, like starting out?
I mean, starting out, just real quick to shout out some other names. Bill Taylor, obviously, and Josh Sloan. Watch out for those people. Those dudes.
Those two, out of all the names that you've given so far, I would put them up there with closer to Nick Jamerson as far as like
not
where they're going to go.
I'd put him about 5 or 6 spots from Nick, because he's always going to be 5 or 6 spots ahead of everybody.
All right.
So.
All right. But as far as like potential,
they're up there, man.
Because
those guys are freaking talented and great.
And they're essentially just now starting.
Basically,
they're just now starting. And when you hear Bill Taylor open up his mouth on stage, it stops you. I don't care what you're doing, it stops you.
You figure you're like, am I dead? Am I in heaven right now?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like an angel is singing to me.
The only thing about his voice is I don't know if it can get any better, and I bet I know it will.
It will with time. It will with just, I mean, I watched him do his full band show at the Burl, and it was awesome. I'm like, and he tells me all the things that he wants to do, and I'm like, it's going to make it even more awesome, and I can't wait for people to see it, to be honest.
Yeah.
What Cole Chaney did the other night was amazing too.
Cole Chaney is one of those guys too, man. He's just like steadily progressing, and I've seen him from the beginning on, and like he's always been like an old soul. I remember he and I accidentally ran into each other one time. This is years ago. He may have been old enough to drink a beer at that point. I'm assuming he was, because he had one, but he was young. And we sat at the bar, and I told him, you know, what my goals were, and he looked at me and was like, how old are you? And I told him. He's like, you gotta do it right now. He's like, you gotta do it right now. And that was a young guy that was like telling me.
He's always been,
and I
think it's because, you know, his mama Andy is just such a very wise woman in her own self that it just after I got to know Andy a little bit better, I understand Cole now. You know what I mean? Like where he gets his just wisdom, his old soul. I mean, it was ingrained into his brain since the day he was born.
Yep.
And when you talk to him, you will feel that. You'll feel like you're talking to somebody that's 20 years older than you. You know what I mean? It's
I still feel that way with him. When I'm hanging out with him, it's like, dude, I'm 46 years old now. I'm like,
yeah.
And he, I don't know how old he is. He's at least 25 years. I mean, he's probably 20 something.
He's in his 20s, I think, still easily.
But anyway, you touched on something else, man. Sometimes that those qualities come out in a family line, and he has, Cole Chaney has songs about his grandfather being a coal shooter.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about his mom in Mercy,
and his grandma in Charlene. So he's very close to his family. I feel that with you too, man, because you have such a rich music background within your family, and you're keeping it rolling, man. And so I try to
promote, I love it, brother.
I try to promote and push everybody I can, man, because if you show me your worth, then you're worth it. In my book. And everybody I hang out with and be around, they all show me their worth. And I will always support when I can. I mean, I'm the guy that learned from Roger B. Combs. I can do more than one show a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've done 4.
I've seen it
in one night.
I've seen it personally.
And I'll stop by and see the people that I want to see, and make sure that I support when I can support. So many as I can support.
And we've got a lot of those in the music scene here locally that do that, and that is what makes the difference in a music scene.
Big time.
We're gonna switch gears a little bit, man.
We'll go back to what my advice would be to an upcoming artist would be: keep your head down. Don't listen to the outside chatter. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. That's the hardest one. Staying in your lane, keeping your goals in your lane, and don't lose sight of them. If you get off at an exit to take a piss, make sure you get right back on. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just never be afraid to get on stage and do what you want to do. Don't try to go sound like somebody. Don't try to be somebody else. Be yourself. Don't train your voice to... Oh, the beards are talking.
Do you know who that was that just went by?
No.
It's Guy Gastineau on his bike, and he just gave us a shout out on the way. He was like, he plays upright bass and fiddle.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I thought him and your buddy.
He probably headed down to Apollo's.
You see the beards? I'm like, oh, the beards are talking. But
that's
yeah,
so funny that he just drove by.
Just stay in your lane. Keep your head straight. Don't listen to outside chatter. Always do what you want to do. I mean, if your thing is to get up and sound like somebody, then get up and sound like somebody. Just make sure when you do it, you're writing to be better than that other person. And that's about it.
What you're talking about is finding your voice, and finding your voice is a journey, because sometimes we get an influence. We have somebody that sparks us, and that we want to emulate what they've got, and sometimes that is a process of finding your own voice. Is like imitation. Eventually, the more you get on stage, the more you sing your own songs, the more you write, the more you find no, this is who I am, and your voice will change over time. But I think that's very solid advice, man.
I don't think I've ever met a musician that had their voice right off the bat. And if you have, man, I mean, you're probably Chris Stapleton. I mean, that's all I can say. And it's just, I've watched people like you, people like Daniel Kane, people like Nick, and even Chris Bentley, the other part of Sunday Best, and the other part of Sunday Best. I mean, he's amazing by himself. Hell, he's a rocking good time.
Chris Bentley, I've had him on some shows, and he's done his solo stuff.
Man, He
And
rocks it.
he quietens the room pretty damn quick too. He's
Mm-hmm.
he's an entertainer too, man.
And
like,
a great writer. I mean,
great
some
writer.
of his lines can cut deep like a knife. You know what I mean? And just like anybody's really. I mean, if you know what you're doing, just like you and Daniel and everybody else. I mean,
Chris and I were hanging out one night, and he was like, I played a place out in Prestonsburg, and he was hanging at the bar, and when I saw him show up, I was like, dude, thank you so much for coming out. And we ended up hanging out at the bar, and he's like, man, what's your wrestling persona? I'll never forget this, man. He's like, what's your wrestling persona? And I was like, dude, I never thought about it. He's like, man, when you get on stage, you gotta have, yeah, he's gotta have like, but he brings it. Every time I see him on stage, he brings it, and sometimes you have to get outside your own head and be
a character.
Sometimes it's a character. It's like it's kind of a drama.
Yeah.
You know, you're the actor in your own play.
You're
the
entertainer. You're what everybody's looking at.
That's another thing when you're just starting out. You get so nervous. You're like, everybody's analyzing what I'm doing. They're judging me and critiquing me. You are deciding who you want to be, and let the judgments fly, man. It's going to happen throughout your career, no matter what you're doing. So just find out who you are, find out your own voice, man, and just like keep it up, and you'll settle into this comfort zone to where you feel confident in what you're doing, and that you're putting the best product out there.
Surround yourself with people that boost you. You know what I mean? That want to be there. That always helps in the process.
And everyone, we all have heavy loads to carry, and that's where we're gonna transition into this power steering pump job that we're gonna do. We're gonna replace the return line on this thing. There was something I wrote down that I found about power steering. It said
knowledge.
The philosophy behind power steering is to balance power with feel, while providing variable assist that adapts to driving conditions. The goal is to amplify, not eliminate, steering feel. That's why there is power steering in your vehicle. It's to balance the power with the feel. You don't want something to take the feel away completely, but you want something to assist you. So, Greg, in conclusion, what's something that has assisted you in dealing with any kind of stress, any kind of pain, any kind of like anguish that happens in your life? What is something that's helped you to steer through that?
Marijuana. I'm kidding.
It could be a thing.
I mean,
it definitely helps a lot of people.
It does. Me being a veteran, it does. But one thing that does help me kind of guide myself through my life is honestly like my family. My father has always been my rock and always will be, and I'll always talk to him for the rest of my life. And I use my sisters to help guide me, because sometimes they're better than me, and they're my little sisters. So I use that, and I've become the person that I am, just using them as the bumpers in life, kind of bouncing off them, and them kind of keeping me straight and narrow. And then using the Marine, and being in the Marine Corps really helped. Just have a mindset, like a certain mind state constantly, and it's always to just go live, go do something, go be something, try something out, just go do it. And that's just how I live my life, and that's what's always helped me. It's always helped me. Besides music is life in my book. That's my book. And if I'm not at music or seeing music or listening to music, I'm not happy. And so that's a lot that I use, but those are the bases that I can use. So if one base doesn't work, I go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have somewhere to go to try to figure the shit out and get something out of my head. And I always use, my brothers, yourself and Daniel, have always been some blinders for what's going on in my life. So Much appreciated.
It's good. Well, I love you, man.
Love
I
you
love
too,
you.
dude.
Here for you. I know you're there for me, and like that's another thing is like keep your friends close, man. Talk to them as much as you can. Pick up that phone. If you're going through something, pick up the phone. And I tell you, there's many times like I've gone through some shit that I shouldn't have gone through alone, and it makes it so much easier when you got buddies to hang out with and bounce ideas off of and just like tell them your problems. One thing that helped me, in addition to some of those things that you talked about, was music. Writing music for me was like sometimes you go talk to a psychiatrist or a counselor. One thing that will tell you is like keep a journal. Like when you're feeling something, write it down. And something about writing it down takes the power out of it. So it takes it out of your mind and puts it on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that with music, that's what helped me through a lot of things. And then the act of putting a melody to it and then putting it out there, and then people are like, oh shit, like that song helped me through a problem, or it motivated me to do something.
Yeah.
That's the power of it. And so if you're finding this episode, hopefully you found some benefit out of it and it motivated you to do something constructive, to find your voice, to find something to help you power through. And we're gonna call this an episode, man. Like, cheers. So how'd you like the cigar? We're about halfway through.
Pretty damn good, if I do say so myself.
So it's a 4 Kicks. Who makes that?
4
Does it
Kicks,
say on there?
and I don't know.
So 4 Kicks.
It's got a lot of stars on it.
F-O-U-R Kicks. If you make 4 Kicks cigars, type in the comments where it's from.
What's CN?
CN?
Or CH?
We need to have their marketing team like reach out to us. What does it say?
Robusto.
4 Kicks Robusto.
Robusto.
All right. We're gonna research that and we're gonna come back.
Remember, treat everybody how you want to be treated. That's
Amen.
it. That is it.
Amen.
That is it. There's no extra to that.
Make somebody's day a little bit, be kind, man. Be kind, be good, and have a good time. Don't hurt anybody.
That's it.
We're out.
Love yous.